SPSN.
Welcome into this episode of the Scene Project Sports Network. I am your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today is the smooth-talking Shane Diesel. Shane, welcome to the show, brother.
How you doing, boss?
Man, I'm happy to have you on the show finally. I know we've been talking about this for a while, and you got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of things happening down there in the wrestling community. Obviously, You're working with our good buddy, Matt Classic Creed, with the AIWF and doing a lot of wrestling coverage. But before we get into all the stuff you're doing now, love to hear a little bit of your backstory, man, and just give you the floor here for a minute.
Okay. Well, now first I'll say I'm overall, I would consider myself mostly like a showman. I'm known as a ring announcer. Of course, with wrestling, you wear a lot of hats. I'm really deep into the Wrestling Fans International Association. I do a ton of writing for them and coverage, which actually helps me as well. And I bring in a lot of people. I initially learned how to promote very well because I was always a combat sports fan of one or another. Wrestling was my first love. I've loved it ever since I was like a little bitty kid. And I always wanted to be involved with it. But when I got to be a teen, like UFC had took off and people like Tito were coming in that were kind of doing pro wrestling bits with it. So I started kind of breaking more into it and boxing. But people around me weren't interested in it all the time. Most people were only interested if it was a big fight. So I started learning how to make every fight seem like a big fight. Like it's the fight you need to watch and everything. And then years later, I had actually went around the world with the guy I met that worked for, I don't know if you remember the XFL, but Vince McMahon's XFL, the initial one. We had a team here called the Memphis Maniacs. I had met their finance manager, and he actually happened to be a wrestling manager as well. I got to know him really well. He really liked me. He loved my passion for the sport. So at 13 years old, he was carrying me across the country once my parents got to know him and everything. And I would go to wrestling shows and do little bits, I had actually trained very unsafely. I know now, but I had actually trained to wrestle. I mean, and at the time, at 13, I was jumping off of roofs, jumping through barbed wire and stuff. Cause my whole life was I was going to be a pro wrestler when I got older. Until I got into working actually a couple months after I started touring the country with the guy. And I started actually making money, and I kind of fell in love with money too. And even though I'd gotten into combat sports, and so I started training in that and boxing, wrestling, a little jiu-jitsu, a lot of shoot fighting and stuff like that. But I'd always had the intention that being a professional wrestling world champion was what I was going to be. And I would actually get people that reached out to me that wanted me to do it. And I would be on board with it, but I would hear all of a sudden, yeah, but you got to pay $1,300 down or whatever. And I was always like, man, there's no way. And then the people would be like, well, Shawn Michaels or Seth Rollins charges $2,400 down. And I'm like, yeah, but that's Seth Rollins. I mean, unless you are Seth Rollins or Shawn Michaels or, Greg Anthony, I would actually pay that for. But it just wasn't affordable. Greg made it affordable. The problem is I work 80 hours a week at what I had at the time as a day-to-day job. It still is. I do it. I'm a captain, a security captain. And so I started doing that with it and training, on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I got to where I could only make like 1 day a week at the most. It actually led to me getting a divorce and everything, which turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me because I had 50% free time and I devoted all of it to working. So that's how I got basically into that 80 hours a week thing. But with me working that much, I wasn't able to train and get going as fast as he really wanted me to go because I could tell he saw something in me. You know, he saw charisma and he saw like a certain, I don't want to brag on myself or anything, but like he saw that I had stage presence and could be a great showman as well as a pretty good athlete. And like I'm also a wrestling historian. I've been studying it since I was old enough to talk, just like I have my kids doing now. And so I knew everything from a fan perspective and had no idea how much goes into it from not a fan perspective until years later. So I started training with him, and even the 1 day a week was getting really hard because of the 80 hours and stuff. Greg kind of, when he trains with you, he starts to work towards like coming up with your gimmick and the idea of what he wants to do with you. And one day I just threw it out there. I was like, Greg, like, most of the wrestlers start in masks because they're too shy or like they don't know if they'll give off the right vibes and all of that stuff right away. So they typically start off in masks or something until they get comfortable, in front of the camera. And I was like, man, I can't do that. I was born to be in front of a camera. Like that's all I've ever wanted. Like people have to know it's me, and people like will come because it's me. And I got to talking to him, telling him the few other things that I love, which is like 6,335,000 other things that I'm actually interested in too. Just none of them as big as wrestling. That's always been like the biggest thing in my life, like the biggest passion I've had. As a matter of fact, even my boss in the security world told me to go after training again. It ended up leading to me getting a divorce. I don't mean to run on too much. I'm just trying to shorten the story down some. It led to me getting a divorce. So I dedicated myself to 80 hours a week working and all of that, just because I was like trying to take my mind off of things. But I just always enjoyed working anyway. And but my boss was like telling me like, well, you only kind of like security. It's not like your passion, you just kind of like it. If you're able to work 80 hours a week like you do, and if you will dedicate yourself to becoming the best at this, and you love wrestling that much, there's no doubt in my mind you can become something in it. So I get back into it, and about 2 months after, I'm trying to rattle my brain about which character idea I would want to be. And I'm watching today's greatest. I'm today's greatest showman. I'm watching The Greatest Showman, P.T. Barnum, The Greatest Showman movie. Not 100% accurate, by the way, but just I'm watching it and I love it. And so I reached out to Greg that day and I was like, Greg, when the time comes, I'm going to be begging you to be the showman. I'll pay for my own gear, because obviously I'm working a ton and stuff. So I got a ton of money at this point. And he made it like, he actually has it like where it's only like $20 a session. And he breaks it down per session so people can afford to go, and like sometimes if you couldn't pay that day, he would, as long as you showed up with it, eventually he'd be okay with that. Like he was very he was able to be, sorry, my throat's kind of hurting a little. He was one of those people that was really easy to work with. And like you could tell he wanted you to do it, like, cause he was making it possible. But like I said, the 80 plus hours a week was getting to be a lot of work. So I kind of had to hang it up for a little bit. And the place I was security for, like I said, I was a wrestling historian. But to be a real historian, I believed you had to preserve history to some way. And the place I worked for was a tourism place for Tennessee. And I knew all of this Memphis wrestling history. Our WrestlePlex here is called the Herb Welch WrestlePlex. Herb's brother, Roy Welch, and Nick Goulas actually founded the original Memphis wrestling here. Our lineage goes back to Memphis wrestling even. And I realized that there was no mention of it here, so I wanted that. And it almost literally took an act of Congress, but I got that through. And, I got the ability to promote wrestling here, to pass out flyers, to tell people, to sign autographs, all kinds of stuff. And like got it locked in for Tourism Week booths and all this stuff. He then seen my grind and everything. I got to talking to him about how I really didn't want to be anything but a showman. I wanted to be today's greatest showman. I feel like that's what I am. I present attractions and promote things very well. I'm great at bringing people into any door. And I'm actually going to talk about that here in a minute because I actually got something special for you. But I'm pretty good at bringing people in, getting followers, getting likes, subscribers, just by like way before you could click send 1,000 invites. I used to just get on there and message people, hey man, subscribe to this for me. I'll do this for you, and just grind my way to thousands of people, day in and day out until I got what I wanted. And all I ever wanted to be was that wrestling champion, but ultimate showman, obviously, like Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes, like one of the best showmen. I wanted to kind of do both. So I was like, I'm going to beg you to be a showman one day. I realized the way he does it is kind of picking up on your personality. Sorry, I know I've ranted and raved for a while here, but he picks up on your personality. And obviously one of mine was talking a lot. And then I started going through, I think you've probably heard me do this, but like I'll do like voices. I can do different voices. I'm not shy. I was a trained Skills USA, Tennessee Statesman, and public speaker for them. I was trained in public speaking through them, and like could rattle off a speech in a second that I don't write or anything like that. I just would wing it, and they would say it was incredible, and I couldn't tell you 3 words I said. I started doing different voices, and he heard the announcer voice, and he was like, wow. And he was like, can you be announcer this week? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, can you start Friday? And I was like, absolutely. And for me personally, this was even better than wrestling because I'm a fan at heart, I know the business and I'm a big fan at heart. And so like when he offered me that, it's like, so I get to be involved in every match. I get to be the first person they see that walks out there, be the showman that hypes the thing up and everything and presents all the star attractions, which is all I ever wanted to be, was a showman. I had the natural voice for it and the natural, get up and get people hyped type of personality. But there was a lot to be taught, of course, and I'm still learning. I actually made second or third in the Announcer of the Year contest this year. I believe I got the most votes from fans of anybody. But I'm glad they didn't give it to me because I still have a lot to learn and I need something to strive for. So really glad they didn't give it to me yet. But I got started after that. And one day randomly said, man, this is so awesome. Like, not only do I get to do this, but for the matches, I got the best seat in the house. And he come up to me and he'd seen me writing him and seen that I was not too bad at writing, paragraphs and stuff either. and come up with the whole idea of me making a column for him called Best Seat in the House with Shane Salas. He was one of the board members, Greg Anthony. If I haven't said his name is the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony, 2-time AIWF World Heavyweight Champion. Held the belts for years, and the 150 promotion AIWF was only about 70 when Greg started. It was only around 70 something promotions in, which is still a lot, but a lot of those promotions come in because they made Greg the champion. That made them believe in the AIWF. That's how big of a deal Greg Anthony is. And he is absolutely one of the best minds for the business. And like, it meant a lot because he believed in me enough to not only not make me wear a mask or something, but like to be able to get out there and show my face. He gave me a guy and he's like, teach him how to announce. And it was like 3 minutes before the show started. And like, so I go out there from there, and man, I mean, it's been about, I've only been announcing for about probably 7 months now or something like that. But like, I've gotten rave reviews from people like Downtown Bruno, Memphis wrestling legend, one of The Rock's best friends. I've gotten good reviews from Wildfire Tommy Rich, NWA champion.
So you feel like you finally found your calling, you know, being such a huge wrestling fan and wanting to be a wrestler, but you really found what you do and what they, you know, call your niche, maybe. Yes. Your expertise over what anyone else, something you can bring that not a lot of other people can bring to the table with the announcing. And I didn't realize that you were still so new at that part of it. I mean, the first time that I heard your voice, you sent me a voice message on Messenger. I said, yeah, you don't get to text me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
because yeah, you got a great voice and your passion for wrestling. That's what's needed. That promotion, that, you know, all of those things that you do very well, getting people fired up at the show and bringing that energy level up a notch is so needed, because the action in the ring can be great, but if you don't have those other parts of it, you don't have those kind of showmen around it as well, that it kind of falls flat. And it's really cool to see what you're doing now with the AIWF, helping Matt out with such a large operation, 150 promotions now. We're very fortunate to work closely with some of them up in our area. Nick Stokey with Below Zero Wrestling. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff with him coming up here. They've got Winter Slam in February. So we'd love to keep including you more into our wrestling coverage and getting you on and maybe teaching you how to host the podcast next. And you can start bringing in all these wrestlers and doing some more stuff with us. Hey, man, I got to let you go. We got a busy day at the studio here, but go ahead and plug it. I know you had a big announcement for us here, so go ahead and share that, and I'll let you get out of here. Probably get back to work.
Okay, so if you're watching this and you watch this all the way through and you can say done, since this is a Scene Project Sports Network, I want you to subscribe to this channel. If you're one of my followers, especially, subscribe to this channel. Let me get it out here for you real quick, because this is kind of a big deal, and I think you'll probably know what this is. And you'll probably get how big of a deal this is. If you subscribe to this channel and you comment done, not my channel, Bubba's channel, I'm going to give one of you a free Kobe Bryant ungraded $2,155 rookie card just for commenting done, subscribing, and saying that you watched this whole show.
That's crazy, Shane. We appreciate you doing that for fans of our show and your fans out there. Can't wait to get this one out for the people. I appreciate you taking some time for me today. Brother, be good, man. And we're going to be sharing more and more of your stuff and everything that you're doing. Really appreciate you taking some time for me today.
Oh, yeah. One last thing. I'd like to say I didn't say what I do for the AIWF. I'm a national sales rep for across the globe, of course. They really liked my ideas. They weren't aware that I was new to the business either. but they really loved my ideas for how to make the show bigger. One of the things we're going to do, and I was actually hoping to talk to you about this one day, around February, I'm looking to premiere my first reality show for the AIWF. It involves my two sons living this magical life that I wish I could have lived. You know, because we all started as wrestling fans with that gleam in our eyes, seeing them as superheroes, right? But these are two kids that get to do all of these special things that kids would love to do because of my involvement with it. So we're making a show called The Solace Boys Wrestling Royalty. It's a reality show about my two children. It's not me. It's a show about them and about their experience as wrestling fans and getting people back to that experience as wrestling fans. I know you got a lot to do.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. And to showcase the boys is awesome. And that fan experience. I don't know if you watched, I mean, obviously you did, John Cena's last match, and there was a young fan that was given the guy who beat him, his name's evading me right now, a hard time. And that's actually one of our good friends up here in South Dakota. That's her boy.
Oh, wow.
And they went totally viral, millions of views on the TikToks and everything. So we love that fan experience. We all start out as that little kid, man.
Yeah. And let me say one thing about him, that this is something for wrestlers to know, compared to, say, a CM Punk that will sit in there and wait for all the fans to leave. Before John Cena become the word life John Cena, I was in a show in Moline, Illinois, right after he had the match with Kurt Angle, right? Like the Ruthless Aggression match where he slaps him in his rookie match and puts on a great match against Kurt Angle, so you knew he was going to be a star. But nobody really knew John Cena yet. And all the wrestlers, even the nobodies, the announcers, everybody was walking past the fans. I watched as the fans were out there begging for autographs and begging for people to shake hands. John Cena went out there and took pictures and shook hands with all of those people. So even though I never liked John Cena as a wrestler, but I always respected him and his work ethic and everything he brought to the table. And he is where he is because of work ethic. Guys, you can get anything you want if you work hard enough for it. That's
right. Shane Diesel, thanks for being part of the Scene Project Sports Network. And we're going to be talking a lot more with you, brother. So happy to have you on today, and we'll chat again soon.
Right on, brother. It was great to be on. Take care.
SPSN.